Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, so get ready to get triggered. Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, as you might have heard in our intro. And with me, as always, is my expert panel, as usual, Marshall, Adam, and Daniel. How are you guys?
Great.
Doing very well.
Doing very well.
Awesome. So, to begin, as per Spirit Live rules and regulations. How come I can't hear? Okay, there we go. To begin, as per Spirit Live rules and regulations, all opinions expressed on the show are not those of Ryerson or Ryerson faculty and are only those of the individual commentators. Viewer discretion is advised. So let's go right into the recap of the week. We're going to just touch upon Holocaust Education Week at Ryerson again. I think it went pretty well, and I think it was a great initiative that Ryerson had. What are your guys' thoughts? Did you go to any of the events? I know, Adam, you worked at the photo exhibit, right?
Yeah, I was at the Hillel photo exhibit for the week. I didn't go to their, sort of finale event of the Holocaust survivor coming to speak at Ryerson, but I did hear good things about the event. I did hear it was a very positive reception, or as positive as a Holocaust survivor speaking can be. But the organization by Hillel and Ryerson was a great collaboration. Good job to both teams, especially Hillel. The work that you guys put in is incredible, and I hope you do more events. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I regrettably was a complete recluse in the last week. I had a very, very painstaking essay to write, and when I say that, I don't mean it lightly. Like, that essay was the worst thing I've ever had to do. Mm-hmm. I would have rather written a million essays for all my other classes than that one essay, but I missed most of the events. I missed basically all of them. I had intended to go to one. I had a situation with my dishwasher. Had to remove it from my apartment because it was so just foobar.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I unfortunately had several things that came up, and I wasn't able to make it. But I hear it was very excellent. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, actually, I had a bunch of classes when I think the beginning or when they had the photo exhibit. And so I actually got to see Adam when he was just helping out with Hillel. Hillel, was it? No,
Hillel.
Hillel, yeah.
Hillel.
Hillel. Hillel.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the pictures that I saw, they were very moving and stuff because it shows the history from the beginning of Nazi Germany and then their control into power, and just showing the effects of the multiple different concentration camps that they had, like Auschwitz and Dachau, was it?
Dachau.
Yeah, that was the only one that was actually in Germany.
Yeah.
It was very educated. I was very uplifting, and I learned a lot of stuff there. And I also took one of those candles and I lit it in memorial for one of the survivors and stuff like that. So it was
really
pretty
cool.
good.
I didn't think people would actually light them.
No, I did. Well, I mean, just a regular candle.
Because the purpose of the candle was that it had a little bit of a barcode on the outside that you could
I read the
scan.
thing more after anything.
Yeah.
It was talking about the guy who was in charge of it, who was labeled there was used to being in agriculture, and then he got his wife taken away by him.
Yeah.
And stuff.
And then I also heard that somebody was at the photo exhibit and they were looking at a picture and they screamed.
Yeah. One of the visitors visiting the photo exhibit actually found their grandmother in the picture. So
Small world.
they asked if they could take the picture home after the exhibit was done, and Hillel obviously said yes. And it was very emotional, and it was really interesting to find out that of the 12 pictures that were chosen, one of them had a family member of Ryerson faculty.
That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's one hell of a story, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's actually the Holocaust Education Week is a good segue into the actual main story, which we'll get to in a second. But the next thing is, once again, we have to mention it. Another sexual assault allegation has come out. This time on George Takei. Oh my!
Oh,
so
I wanted to say that.
My bad, I stole it.
No, it's all good.
But that literally, like, you have to say that. Oh my! Like another sexual assault allegation. Like, what is going on? Now he denies it. He fully denies it. But what do you think of that?
Look, when I read that, I think that one, Kevin Spacey and Louis C.K. were the ones that upset me the most. And I know there shouldn't be a hierarchy of getting upset by sexual assault allegations, but like George Takei is this sort of progressive person who, you know, he talks about equal rights, and he's a member of the LGBTQ community, and he's constantly bashing Trump, and he's talking about his experiences as a Japanese American during World War II, internment camps and all that. And then you hear this and you're like, come on, man, like, you of all people. But on one side there's a sort of, oh, come on, you too. And then on the other side there's a lot of the I don't want to say right wing, but a lot of the crazy internet trolls that are like, haha, you see, the gays do it too.
Yeah.
Haha, we got him good with George Takei. So I don't like when tragedies and such controversial things like that get politicized. Be like, hi, you see, they're just as trash as straight people. You know, case in point.
Yeah, I mean, as a crazy right winger, I don't like that either. And I mean, you know, I don't think it's wrong to be more upset by certain people being accused of these things. I think somebody you like getting accused of something like this is a lot more sad. And you know, people might tell you that that's wrong to, you know, put them to stratify them, but it's not. You know, I'm much more upset by. I mean, I don't particularly like any of these people who have gotten the sexual assault allegations. I've always thought Kevin Spacey and Louis C.K. were terribly overrated, and George Takei. I mean, he's been a very obnoxious, pretentious, and sanctimonious figure for a long time, who's bothered me for a long time. And you know, it's terrible either way. I don't want these people to get accused of these things because I don't want these things to happen at all. So it's terrible either way. I mean, it is somebody who I liked getting accused of this kind of thing, of sexual assault or sexual harassment or whatever. It would be much more upsetting to me, but it's all very upsetting to see. It's all very scary and very indicative of the kind of world we live in and the kind of world that Hollywood is. And I promise I'll stop with the Hollywood hate. But you know, it's got to come up sometimes. It is relevant.
And it just shows how like kind of evil that place is, I guess. And like as soon as one person like got accused with that, it was just a domino effect of just like people going down the down the toilet pretty much. But it's crazy. Like I think the problem with it is because people like aspire to be these people so much, and they look up to them so much because like they're all in your favorite movies, they're in your favorite TV show. Like if anyone knows me from outside, like anywhere, like and someone brought up House of Cards, I would have been the first one on that just to talk about that, just because I really appreciated that show. And then now hearing that like they're not gonna have another season, he's kicked off the set completely. They're gonna like shut down the show completely. Like it's like damn, like
it sucks, it sucks for everybody.
It sucks for everyone. Yeah, because you lose like on good quality entertainment and stuff like that. But then
and people lose jobs.
Yeah, and people lose jobs. But
like, just because of
then again, like if we believe in our legal system, like something has to happen towards these guys.
No, justice will be served. Facts will be proven right and wrong. Like I'm not saying everybody accused is guilty, but when you have multiple accusers with people like Louis C.K. and Kevin Spacey, it's more believable.
And I mean, Louis C.K. basically came out and was like, I did that.
I did it.
I'm a
sorry.
sick man,
I'm a sick man. I
and now,
feel remorse.
On that, I would like to bring up something I said in the last episode. I'd kind of like to revise. So last time, or possibly the episode before, I spoke about George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, and his allegations, accusations. And I kind of dismissed them as him not being threatening. And I think that I don't think I was bad for saying that when it was one person who, you know, understandably in the circumstances, a 94-year-old man who sits at waist height constantly might pat a woman on the bottom because his mind's not all there. And, you know, but as more people are coming forward, it does appear to be that it might be him taking advantage of his position or of his, whether it's of his power or his lack of power, and kind of taking advantage of women and, you know, laying claim to their bodies that way, which I don't like to see. So I'm not going to say that like for sure he's just such an evil man. And keep in mind, I really hate Bush 41 as a president. So this is not me defending him out of liking him or anything. Like, I'm not trying to say that he's for sure like evil, but I'm also not going to dismiss it anymore because it does look that it certainly could be the case that he is taking advantage of women.
And so the last thing I want to discuss is that for the first time in history, Trudeau was not in Canada on Remembrance Day. A Prime Minister was not in Canada on Remembrance Day. What do you guys make of that? Was that like justified because he had a huge important?
I think you would have heard that on the news,
meeting?
But
Yeah, I just heard it on CTV, and that's it.
I mean, I don't think it would really.
He was in Vietnam, right, at the time?
Philippines?
No,
Vietnam.
Vietnam, yeah.
Vietnam. And I mean,
Well, because Trump was in China, so Trudeau was.
It's very strange that he, you know, that would be scheduled like that. But obviously in Asia, they don't really care too much about Remembrance Day in Canada, and that's fair. Trudeau really, like, I would have, I think, been more upset had he not gone to this important meeting. And I mean, he did kind of skip out on it, which I'm actually happy about. I think this is the most happy about Trudeau doing, like skipping out on the TPP thing and kind of ruining it. I mean, I hate the TPP. I really hate global kind of free trade and global
Coming for a globalist.
To see Trudeau kind of get cold feet about it, and some are saying it's because of Quebec's lack of support for it, and you know, as much as you can say about Quebec, you can always count on them for some good old-fashioned nationalism to ruin things for everybody, for better or for worse. And I'm glad that in this case, nationalism has taken precedence over globalism, and it's great to see Trudeau doing that and not being a
wuss.
A wuss about it. Yeah,
A wuss.
So, looks like we gotta move on to our main topic, religious freedom. Now, religion. This is going to be a terrible joke, but Jesus, Hashem is in the building, Allah? Anyway, okay, sorry. It was 1 a.m. when I wrote that.
I'm too tired to understand.
Jesus, Hashem, Allah, see what I mean?
Oh!
See?
Uh-huh.
He gets it.
Okay.
Get it?
Okay.
We probably just
somewhat,
lost our entire
forced,
live
but,
stream.
you know, that's okay.
It was.
But
It was. I needed to get some sort of introduction. But it sparked this discussion for that joke. So, all right, it's a terrible joke, but just as terrible as some people think religion is, we're not here to talk about that today. We want to know, are we free to practice it? And how free are we? There have been many issues with religious freedom in the past years regarding religious practice, religious accommodation, and today we discuss whether we've crossed the line or haven't even reached it. Before we start, remember that we are live on Facebook, so you can comment on our feed, and we'll have your thoughts read live on air. So without further ado, let's begin. The first question, are Canadians free religiously? And to what point?
I would say, and this is I would say this is a fair statement to make. Not necessarily from the bounds of society, but protection under law. I feel as if though Canadians are very free to practice their religion. There have been several landmark cases and accommodations through the years for Sikh Canadians to carry their kirpans, for Sikh RCMP members to wear their turban instead of the traditional bevel-rimmed hat. And there have been rules and regulations changed for Jewish Canadians, Muslim Canadians, and then I feel as if though Christian Canadians have had a privilege to not really need so much accommodation for the majority of Canadian history, depending, and times have changed where different sects of Christianity have been discriminated against and whatever, but those times I feel have long passed. As far as society goes, with things like Islamophobia and just general xenophobia, I feel that there is a societal issue with how Canadians are free to practice their religion publicly and without fear. But as far as legislation and law goes, for all intents and purposes, Canadians, I think, are free to practice their religion as they choose.
So before I speak, we have a few thoughts that were presented in the comments here. We've got our friend Laura saying, freedom of religion until it violates other freedoms. And yeah, we're very free in the grand scheme of things. Thank you, Laura. And as well, Terry says, for the most part free, but societally we shun and disregard religions and create rules based on other religions.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I feel.
And so,
in a sense, do you mean like we stereotype religions or people of a certain religion, or we just act like religion is such a bad thing nowadays?
well, I mean, this is what Terry says. This
Yeah.
is not what I'm saying. But if Terry wants to add further thoughts, you're welcome to, Terry. So what I mean, as Adam brought up, a fantastic point, that when we talk about freedom and we talk about liberty and things like that, we have to look at the legal aspect and the cultural aspect of freedom and liberty differently, because they are very different when it comes to any kind of freedom. So people talk about freedom of speech, and I always hear the old argument, freedom of speech only protects you from the government shutting down your freedom of speech. Yeah, but free speech is a cultural cultural construct, sure, is much more than that. Is about the sharing of ideas, free discourse, debate and whatnot. But same thing when it comes to freedom of religion. The government, I'd say, in Canada is largely supportive of freedom of religion. I don't know if I can think of a case where it's not been, but there is limits, because religion is a system of ideas, and I mean, there's so many religions out there apart from the main ones. I mean, you've got obviously Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and then you've got Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, all of these different religions, and there's ideas in some religions that may not be compatible with our country, with our culture, with our state. And so, I mean, something like an honor killing would not be covered under freedom of religion, of course, because that's
A cultural thing.
It is. You're right. It's a more cultural thing, but does come from a religious perspective. Yeah. And so our friend Max says it's a problem when country A funds religious institutions in country B, when country B is not allowed to do the same to country A. Okay.
You want to maybe
if you want to expand on that, Max. I'm not sure we fully understand what you're saying there, but culturally there is certainly less freedom of religion than legally, and that's always going to be the case no matter what you're talking about. I think that people do shun things that they don't like, and I think that that's how things work. And I don't think that the government needs to stop people from shunning or ostracizing as a society, because I don't think that's the government's job.
So, sorry, continue if you want.
I mean, that's really what I had to say on that regard.
So in regards to the government shunning things, how much support should the government give to religious accommodation and whatnot? Like, for example, I'm currently going through like a legal battle, whatever, but when I went to the small claims court office, they did not have an actual Torah. They had a Bible and a Quran, and apparently, which is true, the first 5 chapters of the Bible is the Torah, so I swore on that. Yeah. But, Marshall, what you actually looked up is that apparently they don't have to have any religious text, because obviously you can affirm, which is without any religious affiliation. But so I guess what I'm trying to say again is, how accommodating should the government be? How far out of their way should they go to help religious people, follow their religions? Like, for example, you're allowed to wear the Sikh head covering as
turban.
Turban, sorry, my bad. When you're an RCMP officer, like you're now allowed to do that. And then we'll obviously get to the regulations regarding the niqab a little later on in the show. But again,
so what was the question then?
Like, how accommodating should a government be?
It shouldn't be like a ridiculous amount of accommodation either. Like
where's the line?
Where's the
if you're able to,
if the government has the idea of like the separation of church and state, then there shouldn't be any accommodation then, like, at all, right?
Would you say that Canada's built on Judeo-Christian values, or it has completely different?
Yeah, you could see. Well, I think a lot of countries in the Commonwealth would attribute to that. An example, the UK, they have like a very separate system where people are either Protestant or Protestant's the Church of England, right? Yeah, And then they also have like just different denominations of Christianity and stuff like that. So they are based in that. But the problem is now that like with immigration and all these different cultures coming in mass, it's difficult for the government to accommodate just because the vast majority, just the vast amount of religions that we have. An example, all the religions that you claim. But I think if by any chance there would not be able to accommodate, like an example, if you don't have the Torah or any Buddhist scriptures, or if as an example, I would say just a easier alternative would be just to swear an oath onto, I guess you could say like
just
the
like
Constitution or something like that, or the Charter or something like that. Something simple, like a legally binding document that encompasses all people regardless of their religious beliefs. So
I want to, Max added to what he said before about country A and country B. He says the Saudi government funds private Islamic schools in Canada when Saudi Arabia bars Catholic churches altogether. And so I do certainly see that as an issue.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And Terry comes in with separate church and state completely, accommodate in situations of hate crimes, but that's about it.
Now, how are they getting away with this? Like, does the government of Canada know that they're doing this?
Saudi Arabia is a very sticky situation.
It is.
They
have
get
a
away
lot
with
of clout.
so much garbage.
And I use
You
clout.
see a lot of clout.
Well, clout in the term, the actual term, not in the meme sense.
I didn't even know it existed.
Clout's
as
a
an
term
actual-
that's been used for a long time. It's an old word. And so I'm sorry, we were talking about something a second ago. So the Torah situation.
Yeah.
When I first heard that, I was quite upset about that. I thought that was a bit ridiculous when they had the Bible and the Quran, and I looked into it a bit, and now I get it a lot more. It's not anyone's right to be able to swear on their religious text in court. It's the judge's right to make you. And so the idea is, like, if the judge doesn't have a Torah, then all that means is he just can't be absolutely sure that a Jewish person is, or he doesn't have the extra comfort of knowing that a Jewish person is now bound by their religion to tell the truth. So I see it as more of on the judge to have that, and if they don't, then it's like, okay, now I don't have to swear on my religious text, and it's not as big of a deal if I lie, I guess, even though it's still a crime. I thought it was a lot bigger of a deal at first than it actually is.
That's the same with me, because I got I wasn't like pissed or whatever, I wasn't like triggered or anything, but I was kind of like, okay, but like if you have the other texts, why don't you have this?
It would make sense.
The simple form
Do you
of
know what I
accommodation
mean?
would just to have all of these books on on
yeah,
record,
like he literally had like the
So
person with the small
regardless of
claims.
religion.
He literally had the books right beside. He had the Bible, then the Quran, and then he had like I think a Hindu text.
The Rig Veda.
I guess that's what it's called. I wouldn't know.
So woke.
Yeah.
I'm woke.
And then I was just like, so do you have the Bible? And then he went to check in the Torah. He went to check in the back, whatever. So
Let me check in the back if we have the Torah.
no, literally, he called the other.
Let me hold you in contempt while I do
Yeah.
this. Like,
He literally called the other lady, and he like went to her office and like said something, and then she got up and they went. It was a whole thing. I felt like that person that always like asked for the manager at the store.
Yeah,
Like,
but-
can I speak to the manager?
but I
So,
feel like everything that you did wasn't wrong in any sense of the
No,
word,
like,
right?
it was
So
within
what I'm
your-
saying is like
yeah,
you should, if anything, the judge should use this as a learning point.
Yeah.
And actually get a
I'm
copy
pretty
of
sure
the
that
Torah.
court is now going to have a Torah.
Yeah.
It's just that no, it's not even the court. It's the small claims court office.
Yeah. So, but they
Okay.
should though.
But the court will for sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure the court will have it.
So the small, this small
Mm-hmm.
this small claims court office, where is it?
Richmond Hill. It's Highway.
Why don't
I
they
know.
have a Torah?
That was my first
Yeah.
thought.
Why don't
as
they
soon as
have
you
a
said Richmond.
Torah?
I don't know. Like you're next to Thornhill.
You're
like
next to you're
George
in,
Central. Like
exactly. Like,
So-
I'm gonna say it. Like you need a Torah in Richmond Hill or in Thornhill.
One thing I had read is that there was a case in England where a Jewish person had been in court. I'm not sure whether they were the defendant or whatever was going on. I don't know. But they brought in a Torah, and this was a very, very orthodox, kind of very traditional Jewish person. And they, the person bringing it to them, the person bringing the Torah to them was not a Jew. And they were touching the leather binding, which was fine, but once they touched the paper, there was an issue or something like that. And I think that if they don't want to cause issues for people and they would just don't care that much about making sure that people are affirming based on their religion,
Yeah.
and I don't see it as too big of a deal. Because who wants to get called out for being religiously insensitive for
Yeah.
accidentally doing something with the Torah? I know that if a Torah falls to the ground, then certain Jews will
you have to
fast for a day, and nobody wants to have to do that. That's
why you make sure there's more people in the room, because then you can split it up.
for sure. And so Karina says, when it comes to our legal system, my opinion is affirm. You don't need to bring religion into it. You shouldn't have to be bound by your religion to speak the truth. That falls on you as a human being.
Now that's a whole
really
different
good point.
I mean, it's a whole different argument there, because if you're a deeply religious person, then
Yeah,
your
some
religious
people's
beliefs
moral compass
yeah, exactly.
is dictated.
But I can see
Yeah, but
where
your moral compass shouldn't be dictated by your religious views.
but if you're extremely religious, that's where everything
that doesn't.
your morals would come from the religion.
Well, they come from that, sure, but like you should be able to let's say I forgot one passage that would explain one of my moral decisions from the Torah or the Bible. You should be able to come up with that using critical reasoning and come up with that yourself.
And so what I'm saying is, like, for deeply religious people, their religion is the critical thinking, right?
And so my answer to
that's their
Karina
interpretation
here,
of how to do that.
my answer to
And
Karina
now
here is that
I just want to say I'm not like that, right? Like, I don't necessarily base everything off religion, but yeah.
So to kind of give a sense of perspective, the idea is it's the judge's right to have you swear on your holy text. So they say, the judge thinks, okay, this person's Jewish or this person's a Muslim. I want to make sure they're telling the truth. Mm-hmm. So I'll bring in a Quran and have them swear on that, because the Quran means a lot more to this Muslim person, ostensibly, than just affirming on nothing. And so it's the judge's privilege. It's not anyone's right. Yeah. So that's the way I see it. And sure, whether you're religious or not, you should be able to tell the truth. But the judge is just trying to make extra sure. And so if they don't have a Torah, then they, aren't,
so
that's
the judge done fuck then.
That's, they've lost their privilege to make sure that this Jew is, swearing on their religious text, right? And so, back to accommodations, I don't think it's ever really the government's job to accommodate. When it comes to Sikhs in the RCMP, I have no problem with them having the turbans as part of the uniform. That's fantastic. More people in the RCMP is great. I don't think that the RCMP has to do that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that they should be forced to do that. It's the RCMP and whoever, I guess the federal government decides the regulations. If the federal government does not want to accommodate like that, then that's not their job. I don't think they should have to. But the fact that they do is good. And otherwise, you've got the Kirpan. So if you want to allow Sikhs to carry a Kirpan, that's totally okay. But I think there should be the same standard along all lines. And I certainly don't think that you should be able to bring it on an airplane. If you want to fly with your Kirpan, maybe you should be flying out of Punjab. Sorry to be insensitive, but it's. I think religious accommodation can go too far, and I think sometimes it doesn't go far enough. I think that you should be able to do with your property and your business and your person as you wish, but as long as you aren't presenting a risk of aggression to anybody. And now I know that these Sikhs, if they're observant, they're not going to just stab any random person.
The Kirpan doesn't have a purpose of being used as a weapon.
For sure.
I think if you're an observant Sikh, if you were to go as far as to be a Kirpan carrying observant Sikh, then you should feel completely safe to bring it on an airplane flying out of Punjab or Pearson. It's the same sort of standard. I think that...
What's the name of that object actually again?
Kirpan.
Kirpan. Okay, because I was actually having a discussion about this before in one of our classes, and it specifically relates to religious freedom. But some people that don't understand what the object is. So to explain it, isn't it basically some sort of? It's not. It's like a dagger, right?
Yeah, it's a small.
It's attached to the hip of the person, right, or something.
Yeah.
And it's also one of 5 different religious items that a Sikh is supposed to carry with them, right? One of them being the metal bracelet on their wrist and stuff like that. So it's a very it has a very religious. What's the word I'm looking for?
That's very religiously significant.
Yeah, it's significant, but it's important for them. So I think shouldn't be the duty of the government to do that kind of stuff. But I think it was also a smart decision on the RCMP to let that Sikh person to wear their turban, because if it's a Sikh didn't, let's say the RCMP denied that request, this would have been a crazy case that would have been brought up to the Supreme Court and saying this is a form of institutionalized discrimination.
No, it was a landmark case.
Yeah, exactly. So it's instead of doing that, and so having a way to use Canada as a landmark for religious freedom here, and I think it's pretty good. Like not many other Western countries would do that for the highest police force in their land, right? So
For sure, and I think that it is a good thing that RCMP. I don't want people to think I'm against it. I mean, I want the most qualified people in the RCMP, and if there's a lot of Sikhs who are very dedicated and qualified to serving in our RCMP, I think it's fantastic that they can do that well and feel comfortable with their religion. And I mean, yeah, I think it's reasonable to trust that a Sikh has no plans, an observant Sikh has no plans to stab anybody with their kirpan, but it's not the point, really. I mean, I think that you have to set the same standard across the board. I support absolute rights that don't shift for different people and different religions, and I think that if a Sikh person can bring does it have to be dull? Now, I had heard from somewhere, I'm not sure if that's...
I think... I want to say yes.
Because I know traditionally they're sharp, but I believe that there is something about them being dull.
Because it was a 2002 Supreme Court case. I learned about it in high school. But I think the compromise that was landed, it's like the existence of the kirpan itself. It doesn't matter if it's sharp or dull.
I know it traditionally is.
Traditionally, I'm sure it's sharp, but I think that to bring it on a plane, it would be... dull.
And so that's fine, but as long as I can also bring a dull dagger on a plane too, and so
if you declare it, I mean,
so that's totally okay. I just want to make sure that people rights are not being applied selectively.
I thought about I don't know if they actually decided on that, or if they could come to the consensus. Like if they're gonna have that, make it so that they actually can't pull it out at all. Like I don't know. Like I feel like that could potentially be caused as a violation of someone's religious freedom and stuff like that. But I think that could also been like a midway position. Like, oh, you can have it no matter what, but regardless if you're wearing it or not, we're not going to let you be able to take it out,
For sure.
As
honestly,
a safety measure too. Like, not saying that any Sikh would do that and just take out their kirpan and go on a killing spree or something like that. But it's just a way because I've seen I was having a discussion with a student who was saying that they were so confused like that, and they're like concerned about actually someone carrying the kirpan on campus, right? Because it's a knife, like someone's carrying a knife on campus, that's dangerous. That could be a potential safety risk, right? But I explained like what the significance was, and like they still understood that as a safety concern for them personally, and I'm like, I totally understand why you wouldn't want someone to be carrying a dagger, regardless of their religious views or not.
Like I certainly see the concerns. I think
I wouldn't really be too concerned.
I'm not concerned.
I wouldn't be too. concerned.
I'm not concerned whatsoever. But
because I got called Ryerson security. Be like, there's a guy with a knife.
I think somebody who doesn't know anything about Sikhism, I can totally see why they're concerned, and that's not something I fault people for necessarily. They should know. They really should be not ignorant, but I don't.
A lot of people are.
They are, and I don't fault them for that because I don't think it's your duty to learn about the tenets of Sikhism and things like that. But we have a question from Humphrey who says, this reminds me of the drama at York where a student refused to work with women on an assignment because his religion forbids him to. Should there be a limit to religious accommodations to post-secondary institutions?
Well,
that's a great question.
That's a good question. Actually.
Thank you, Humphrey.
Yeah, there was a whole case on Porter Airlines of an Orthodox Jewish man that got the middle seat in between two women, and he almost grounded the plane because he did not want to sit next to these two women, and the plane was full, and they didn't want to move him, and it was a whole thing because Porter didn't really have a policy for Orthodox Jewish men to, if they would be sat next to a woman, what is to be done. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but with this, I feel like, if you are entering into a secular country, into a secular university with secular values, there obviously is methods for religious observance and things like that if you've got holidays to observe and blah, blah, blah. But if you are coming into our institution, follow the laws of the land.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I talk about property rights a lot, and it's really the only right that I think matters. And religious accommodation does fall under that. Religious freedom does fall under that. And so, as a person whose religion forbids you from being in the what is it specifically? Like they can't be too close to women, or they can't be.
I know for Judaism, I think it was for Hasidic or Orthodox Judaism, you can't be with a man alone after sundown.
So you know what? You don't have to.
Yeah.
But if you want to fly on that plane, then too bad.
You have no choice.
If you want to, so for example, at York, where this guy didn't want to work with women on an assignment, You don't have to, but you might fail the assignment.
That's
sorry.
where I was going to go with that.
And so we've got something from, and sorry if you wanted to give your thoughts on that as well.
Sorry,
Daniel.
I was actually just reading an article that they were posting from the Toronto Star about it specifically. It's like, I think it's very important because like it's talking about like, okay, so then if we're gonna put religious freedoms on there, like, and we're gonna like use that, it's specifically going to. Sorry, what was the specific spot? There's a big difference between accommodating someone who physically can't meet class members versus someone who refuses to interact with women.
Yeah.
And if we agree to letting him not interact with women, then we're saying it's okay for and we're actually agreeing with the Bible scriptures saying that, because the Bible says that I shouldn't be meeting with women, I shouldn't be meeting with women, right? So, and the main point, I forget if the actual university mentions it, that they are a secular university. So okay, so then because I used to be Catholic, does that mean I don't want to hang out with people who like didn't go to the same church as me? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, no, like,
so
the whole debacle between women's rights and religious freedom, like, it's very difficult to.
we have a correction from Tamar.
I just saw that. I didn't mean to be ignorant. I'm sorry.
So Tamar says, can't be alone with a man after sundown. LOL, that's not an Orthodox Judaism rule.
I don't know where I pulled that
And
from.
so,
I didn't mean to be
maybe
ignorant.
Tamar has more insight on why this guy was.
Is this guy Jewish?
Was he even Jewish? I don't know. Maybe this guy was a specific kind of type of Jewish, or
I really thought there was something
or maybe he was a
about being
different
a
religion
man.
entirely. But why he wouldn't be able to sit with these women. And so Tristan's question is, what do you guys think about Ontario funding the Catholic School Board, being as it is?
That really relates to the original question about like church and state.
Being
you know
as
what
it
I
is
mean?
only one of the 3 provinces that does it, I fully support it, and I think the rest of the provinces should do it as well. I think
Turn
But do you
the
believe-
school board into secular school
But do you
boards?
believe-
no, I think they should be funding the Catholic School Board.
But
Yeah,
just
okay.
Catholic or all different types of
No,
religious?
just Catholic. It's part of the foundation of our country, part of the compact theory that was the bringing together of the English and the French colonies, and I think it's a very important part of the foundation of our country, the Catholic schools, and I support their continued funding. And I wasn't aware that there was only 3 provinces that did it. I
didn't know that.
I think
Yeah, me
that
neither.
all
What
10.
was it? Quebec and Ontario, and then some other.
New Brunswick, I would
New
wager.
Brunswick, probably. Sure.
Because
Yeah, I'd say
I
New
know there's a
Brunswick.
high Catholic.
I don't think it really matters anymore, but
But then what would you say to the argument that that's, like, if someone were to make the argument, just to play devil's advocate, well, that's not fair. Why is only one religion getting funded and not the others? You know, what would
because
you say
we're,
to that?
we're a country founded upon Catholicism.
But I
And the
thought you
country
said
is-
that
and
we're
the
not
country is
gonna-
still 70% Catholic.
yeah.
Right. And again, just to play devil's advocate, so then if we're founded on, you know, Catholics, then
If
we're
we were
technically
funded on
not
Jewish, if we
we're
were
not
funded on Jewish
separated
religion
on-
and Jewish values, then it would just be like that, and then it would be separate Jewish and Catholic schools to be funding it.
Yeah.
That's it. We're literally the only topic up to discussion here is just that it's just one religion that was a dominant in power there. That's it.
Yeah. Sorry, what was your question, Elliot?
It was just like if somebody made the argument like, well, yeah, we were founded on this, but doesn't that mean that we're not separated from church and state, like in a
Well,
sense?
Canada
Well, I think there are
doesn't
still
have,
some ties.
Canada doesn't have a separation of church and state. We don't have that officially. We are by all, the U.S. has that, but we don't have separation of church and state. We don't have that in our constitution or our charter or anything. And I think that people misinterpret separation of church and state as well. What it is that Congress shall pass no law with respect to any particular religion. And so I don't think having God in the Pledge of Allegiance or on the money is a lack of separation of church and state. I think that's it's a country founded upon God, with God at its core. It's a Christian. It's maybe not a Christian nation officially, but that's what it was founded as, and that's what it remains. I mean, the U.S. allows freedom of religion, and so does Canada, but we were founded upon Catholicism by Catholics, and I mean that's.
So do you think then, in a sense, that we should have some sort of connection between church and state?
There is a connection.
Yeah,
And it should
absolutely do.
stay.
And it should stay.
Yeah.
It's more cultural than anything. Why do we keep the monarchy? We don't need the monarchy for any
Yeah, it's
reason
all symbolic
whatsoever.
now,
It's
like-
symbolic. And it's not just symbolic. There are many, observing Christian and Catholic Canadian citizens. Like, it's the majority of the country, as it is right now. I would like to consider myself a secular person, and I still support the funding of Catholic schools because I will never, under any means, support the removal of money from education. they're publicly funded. A lot of Catholic schools are arguably better than a lot of regular public schools, and I would never, ever, ever vote to take away money from education. So the minute you decide, okay, let's defund Catholic schools, okay, and then you have to defund the International Baccalaureate program, you have to defund the HPA program, and just about anything else that accommodates to anybody else other than the average secular Canadian citizen, and then you go down this slippery slope of closing schools and ending extracurriculars, and it goes all to hell.
For sure. And so Tamara extrapolated on her correction before. She says, also keep in mind that ultra-Orthodox is not the same as just regular Orthodox. Not sitting next to women on flights is their stringency, so they don't, God forbid, get too excited sitting next to a woman. In Judaism, men and women are not allowed to touch at all before marriage. Thank you for that explanation, Tamara.
Terry has a comment, too.
I'm still ignorant. I'm very sorry.
Terry, that just came up.
ignorant.
Terry says, so cut public schools and fund a private school. You wonder why the public system is already hell. So I would say
he also asked, like, why should I pay taxes to teach religion I don't believe? Same for you as a Christian or whatever. Why should you fund Islam?
So to go with this one, just there's a correction here. Catholic schools are still public schools. They're not private schools. They're just public schools with religious elements.
And you don't have to be Catholic.
And you don't have to be Catholic. Anybody.
People are thinking like it's all the idea about separation of church and state, but all these schools, they're just regular schools.
Yeah,
now.
if a Catholic school is your school in the area, you don't have to be Catholic to go to it.
But would you feel comfortable going to it? Like, just again, I like playing devil's advocate.
You feel comfortable going to a Catholic school?
No, would you feel comfortable
I wouldn't
going
mind.
to as a non-Catholic?
I mean, just given the religious how prevalent it is, it's not that prevalent. I know there was, a Sikh girl at my high school. There was a couple Jewish people, I think 2, but and
literally a couple of Jewish.
Yeah,
people.
literally just a couple. And I don't think, given the amount of religion, it's not like you have to. They don't force you onto your knees to pray. They don't. It's very kind of minimal. You have to take a religion class, but
it's literally a religion class.
Beneficial.
It's just a religion class every semester. Every year. So in grade 9, 10, 11, 12, and the grade 11 course is a world religions course. So you actually don't even focus on Catholicism at all. Mm-hmm. You actually focus on every other religion just to just so people actually begin to understand that there's a world outside of Catholic schools, like public schools, like their students are practicing these faiths, and also outside of the community, they're practicing these faiths. And there hasn't been any school that's denied anyone who's not Catholic to come to the school now. The only I guess kind of requirement
in Saskatchewan now
was here in Ontario. The only requirement before was that you had to be baptized, but I don't even think they're enforcing that rule whatsoever in these schools.
You two are Catholic school boys.
Yeah. And so. Sorry,
I didn't mean to out you.
No, it's okay. It's I went to a Catholic school.
I went to one too.
Let's get to Andrea's comment, and then I have one quick question.
Sorry, it's a very long comment, so I'm just going to try and sum it up if that's okay, Andrea. As a practicing Catholic, she says, I think Catholic schools have been a detriment to good Catholic education. The faith is not taught well in Catholic school. It drives people away, which breaks my heart. I think church and state must be separate. The state is here to take care of my physical needs. The church is for my soul. That will affect how I live, and I don't want the state to touch anything that has anything to do with my spiritual well-being.
That's a fair argument.
Yeah, and I think that the faith was taught rather well at my school. I think that it may have been taught in a too rules-based kind of way a little bit, but I think at my school it was taught well. I think that certainly depends on the school you go to.
I think they definitely focus on elementary school, like learning that stuff as a child. It's easier for the child to pick it up.
It's rather unfortunate if it is taught poorly, and I wouldn't want to see that either. I do think it should continue the system should continue to stay. And as far as the separation of church and state, I just okay. I mean, I don't disagree or agree with that. I think that's just a fair argument.
You know what? If you have a bad math teacher, you're going to hate math.
Yeah.
If you have a bad Catholic religion teacher, you're going to hate Catholicism.
Doesn't mean we got to get rid of math class.
Does not mean we got to get rid of math class. Does not mean we have to get rid of Catholic schools.
But that's what I'm saying. Even though if it is a publicly funded system, and if you are not satisfied with the religious education, no one's forcing you to go there. You're forced to go there, if you can't pay for private education. If you actually truly feel that a Catholic school, public Catholic school isn't teaching your religion accordingly, then leave. Like that's a simple option that you could use as well if you have the money and stuff like that. You know, like that's what so many students are doing. There's a school in Brampton. It's a Khalsa community school, which is like predominantly lots of like. I believe it's like Sikhs and stuff like that, and there's like full-on Muslim schools that are happening now and stuff like that. So like it's, there's lots of options now. You don't have to be restricted to the public school system now.
Now I just want to move on to our last question because we've been saving this. We've got about 3 minutes for this, but
Let's do it.
It's about the niqab ban. So, how does the it's like a niqab ban, I would say. Like, how does the law that was passed in Quebec relate to religious freedom? Is it impeding it? Is it helping it? Is it neutral?
The niqab comes from a very polluted, twisted sect of Islam, and it is not enforced in the Quran whatsoever. The Quran, you know what? I don't want to talk out of my ass anymore, but the Quran doesn't necessarily dictate that you need to wear a niqab. It talks about some skin covering to some certain level, but the niqab is very degrading to women, and from what I know, it is oftentimes not on the women's accord to wear the niqab itself. So I don't
it's
think
not mandatory.
I don't even think it has anything to do with religious freedom at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm no fan of the niqab. I won't pretend I am. But again, property rights. You know, if you want to wear it, you should be able to wear it. However, there are situations in which you may need to identify yourself, and you don't get a free pass on that. And you know that's a thing that we are not going to compromise on. But if you want to wear it, you should be able to completely wear it. But if for whatever reason, and it's reasonable that you need to identify yourself, then sorry, like
so do you think that Harper's law that he was trying to get passed, which is a niqab, like you had to take off your niqab,
like a federal niqab
at swearing in ceremonies, do you think that was fair?
I think if you're going to implement that ban, then you have to pay for the funding that it would take to have an all-women staff
being able to accommodate for her,
the people taking off their niqabs.
Yeah,
because it's all good if it's a woman in the room and you're alone with a woman and no men are present or able to watch. So if you're going to go that far, then okay, then you have to accommodate for that.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought that was like something that they offered already. If they don't offer it, then yeah, that's a perfect idea.
It is tough because as a cultural thing, not a religious thing, it's like you are coming into a new culture. Your old culture is there, your new culture is here. And so...
But that's what Canada provides. Canada provides you to practice your culture here as well as back home.
And I won't pretend I'm a fan of that.
But even though the culture can be embedded in lots of, like, not evil stuff, but like a topic I was talking about in class was whether the niqab is actually anti-women or not. So then that just opens up its whole other can of worms to discuss that. And yeah, the niqab ban, like, it's just one of the highlight debates in the topic of religious freedom. So we do have to go, but that was an excellent debate. Thank you so much to everybody that commented. We absolutely love hearing your thoughts on all of this. Thank you to you guys, obviously, for having such a great debate. A brand new episode of the Raben Report will be coming to you next week, live, same day, same time, same people. Have a great day, everyone.